The river moved slowly that night, dark water shining under the pale moon. A man named Daniel walked along the edge, boots sinking into the soft mud. He liked to take long walks at night. It kept his mind calm and his heart steady. Life on the edge of the forest was lonely, but quiet. And quiet was something Daniel had learned to love. But that night the quiet broke. He first heard it as a faint sound, like the whimper of an animal, weak and lost. Daniel stopped, his ears sharp in the still air. The sound came again, soft, but clear. Not a wolf. Not a fox. It was higher, thinner, almost like the cry of a child. Daniel frowned. No children lived near the river. No families stayed in this wild part of the valley. He stepped closer to the bank, brushing tall grass aside. The cry grew louder. His heart quickened, and then he saw it. Something floated near the rocks where the current slowed. At first it looked like a bundle of cloth, pale and glowing faintly, under the moonlight. But the glow was not from the moon. It was coming from the cloth itself, strange symbols etched across it. The bundle shifted, and inside, a tiny hand pushed weakly. Daniel froze. His mind screamed that this was impossible. Yet his eyes told him the truth. A baby, an infant, left in the river, wrapped in strange glowing fabric. The cry cut through him again, thin and desperate. Daniel's instincts fought inside him. One part told him to run. This was wrong, unnatural. Nothing good came from strange things in the river. Another part, the stronger one, told him to act. A baby was a baby, no matter where it came from. He waded into the shallow water, cold rushing against his legs. Carefully, he lifted the bundle from the river. It was heavier than he expected. The fabric was smooth, warm, and alive with light. As he unwrapped it, his breath caught. The baby's skin was not like human skin. It shimmered faintly, as if dusted with silver. Tiny lines ran across its face like natural markings. Its eyes, though half closed, glowed with a pale blue light. Daniel's heart hammered. An alien. A living alien baby. The child gave a soft cry, then fell silent as Daniel held it closer. It looked at him with strange, glowing eyes that seemed to cut through the night. He felt fear. He felt awe. But most of all, he felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. Leave it? Let the river take it away? Or carry it home, risk everything, and invite danger to his quiet life? The baby reached, up tiny hand touching his rough beard. The cry faded into soft breathing, almost like trust. Daniel cursed under his breath. He knew the answer already. He could not leave it. He would never forgive himself. He turned back toward his small wooden cabin on the hill. The baby shifted, in his arms wrapped in the glowing cloth. The light from the symbols pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Daniel wondered what they meant, but he pushed the thought aside. First, the child needed warmth and food. When he reached his cabin, the door creaked open. Inside, the room smelled of wood and smoke. He set the bundle down near the fire. "My," baby stirred, restless. Daniel searched his cupboards, found a bottle of warm milk he kept for stray animals. Carefully, he touched the bottle to the baby's lips. To his shock, the child drank, small gulps at first, then more. Daniel sat back, staring. The cabin felt different now, filled with something alive, something beyond his world. His quiet life had broken in one single night. The baby finished, its glowing eyes closing as it drifted into sleep. Daniel sat in silence, listening to the soft sound of its breathing. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, but he heard something else too. A distant echo. It was not the cry of an animal, not the howl of wolves. It was sharper, almost metallic, like voices carried on the wind, voices that did not belong here. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked down at the sleeping alien child, then toward the door. Whatever this baby was, whoever had left it in the river, it was not over. Something was coming. Something that would change his life forever. And in that moment, Daniel knew By saving the child, he had crossed a line he could never return from. The night was no longer quiet. It was only the beginning. The cabin was small, built from old timber, but that night it felt crowded. Daniel sat near the fire, staring at the sleeping alien baby in the strange glowing cloth. He had lived alone for years, used to silence, used to the sound of wind through the trees. But now, the silence felt heavy, as if the whole forest was holding its breath. The baby shifted, making a soft sound. Its skin shimmered faintly, the silver markings glowing like faint stars. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. "What are you?" he whispered, though he knew the child would not answer. He stood, pacing the room. His mind raced. Should he take the baby to the nearest town? Should he leave it on the church steps? No. That would bring questions. Men with guns, people with fear. He had seen how humans treated things they did not understand. They destroyed them. He looked again at the baby, tiny chest rising and falling, strange light around it fading like embers. A wave of protectiveness rose inside him. No one would harm it while he was alive. Still, unease crawled under his skin. He remembered the metallic echoes he had heard outside. Voices, not human. If the baby came from the sky, then maybe others were searching for it. Soldiers? Hunters? Parents? The thought of parents should have been comforting, but it wasn't. His gut told him danger was near. Hours passed. The fire burned low. Daniel wrapped himself in a blanket but kept his rifle within reach. He did not know if a rifle would matter against whoever might come, but it made him feel less helpless. Just after midnight, the silence broke again. The baby gave a sudden cry. Loud, sharp, not like before. Daniel jumped, rushing to the cradle he had made from an old basket. The child's glowing eyes were open wide, staring at something Daniel could not see. "Shh, it's all right," Daniel whispered, lifting the baby. But as he held it close, he realized something. The cry was not from fear, it was a warning. The glow from the cloth pulsed rapidly, symbols flashing like alarms. Daniel's heart pounded. He stepped to the window, lifting the curtain just an inch. The forest outside looked still, shadows thick under the moon. But in the distance, through the trees, faint lights moved. Not torches, not lanterns. They were sharper, cold beams of white, cutting through the darkness. Daniel froze. Someone, or something, was searching. He ducked back, pulling the curtain tight. He held the baby close, its tiny body trembling in his arms. The glowing cloth dimmed, then steadied, as if calming itself. Daniel moved quickly. He set the baby back in the basket and covered the glow with a thick wool blanket. Then he blew out the lamps, leaving only the dying fire to give a weak orange glow. The cabin sank into near darkness. His pulse thundered in his ears. He listened. Footsteps. Slow, measured, crunching against the dry ground outside. Not one set. 2. Maybe 3. He heard low voices speaking in a tongue he did not know. The sound was sharp, clicking, not human. The baby stirred again, but Daniel laid a hand on its chest. "Quiet, little one," he whispered, though fear shook his voice. The footsteps circled the cabin. Once, someone brushed against the wooden wall. The baby's glow pushed faintly through the blanket, but Daniel tightened it, praying it would not show. Minutes dragged on like hours. Daniel stayed still, rifle across his knees, finger near the trigger. But then, slowly, the voices drifted away. The footsteps faded into the trees. Silence returned, deeper than before. Daniel let out a shaky breath, sweat cold on his brow. He pulled the blanket back, checking the baby. Its glow had dimmed again, eyes half closed, breathing calm. He leaned back against the wall, holding his head in his hands. What had he gotten himself into? But when he looked again at the baby, something inside him softened. The child's small fingers curled, reaching for his hand. Daniel hesitated, then let the tiny hand grip his finger. The glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat. A strange peace filled the cabin. It was as if the baby was telling him, "I trust you." For the first time in years, Daniel did not feel completely alone. He stayed awake until dawn, watching the fire die and the night turn pale. His body was tired, his mind heavy with questions. Who had walked outside his home? Were they looking for the baby or for him now? As the first light of morning touched the forest, Daniel heard something new, a sound that froze him in place. Knocking. Slow, heavy knocks on his door. The baby stirred, opening glowing eyes, as if it knew who had come. Daniel reached for his rifle, heart thundering, and moved toward the door. He had survived the silent night, but morning brought something far more dangerous. The knocking grew louder, steady and patient, as if whoever stood outside already knew he was awake. Daniel froze with his hand near the latch, rifle balanced in the other. His cabin door had not felt so thin before. Behind him, the alien baby gave a soft cry as if sensing danger again. "Quiet," Daniel whispered, turning his head toward the basket. "Stay quiet for me." The knocking stopped. Silence pressed against the cabin walls. Daniel's pulse beat in his ears. He waited, breathing slow, hoping the strangers would leave. But instead, a voice called out. It was not human. The tone was musical, strange, yet shaped into words he almost understood. "Open," it said. "We seek the child." Daniel's stomach turned cold. They knew. Whoever they were, they knew about the baby. He tightened his grip on the rifle, but he did not open the door. "Go away," he said firmly, though his voice cracked. "You're not welcome here." Silence again. Then, to his shock, another voice spoke, softer, smoother, and this time, the words were clear English. "Please," the voice begged. "We mean no harm. We only ask for the child. We are its kin." Daniel's heart pounded harder, two voices, two strangers, and one of them could speak his language. He stepped closer to the window and pulled the curtain just enough to peek through. The sight nearly made him drop his rifle. Two women stood outside in the morning mist. They were tall, their shapes familiar, yet alien. Their skin shimmered faintly like the child's, silver markings running along their arms and faces like rivers of light. Their eyes glowed softly, one pair green, the other golden. Both wore cloaks torn and burned at the edges as if they had traveled through fire. Daniel shut the curtain quickly, pressing his back against the wall. Two alien women, not soldiers with weapons, not hunters, but still dangerous, maybe more. The baby cried louder now, a high, clear sound that seemed to answer the knocking. Daniel rushed to the basket, scooping the child into his arms. The glow of the cloth flared brighter, symbols flashing as if reacting to the voices outside. "Do you hear it?" The softer voice called again. "It knows us. It knows its family. Please let us in before others find us." Daniel's throat went dry. Family. Was it true? Were they the child's mothers? Guardians? Or were they lying to trick him into opening the door? His mind battled itself. He could not trust them. Not yet. But he also could not deny the strange connection between them and the child. The babies. Cries grew calmer whenever the women spoke. "Why was the child in the river?" Daniel shouted through the door. "If you are its kin, why did I find it drowning last night?" A pause. Then the voice answered, heavy with pain. "Because we were hunted. Because soldiers came. We had no choice but to let the current carry it away. Better the river than death." Daniel swallowed hard. The words felt true, heavy with grief. But truth and lies often walked side by side. "I don't trust you," Daniel said. "You shouldn't," the other voice replied sharply, the one that did not speak his language. Though he couldn't understand the words, the tone was clear, defiant, impatient. The softer one spoke again. "But you care for the child, don't you? You fed it, kept it warm. That is why it still breathes. We will not harm you, human. We only wish to hold what is ours." Daniel looked down at the infant. The glowing eyes stared up at him, calm now, as if waiting for his decision. He took a deep breath, walked to the door and slid the bolt halfway. His heart hammered. With one last glance at his rifle leaning against the wall, he pulled the door open just a crack. Morning light spilled in. The two alien women stood close, their cloaks damp with dew. They looked at him, then at the baby in his arms. The one with green eyes gasped softly, hands trembling as she reached forward. The golden-eyed woman stayed still, her gaze sharp, scanning Daniel as if measuring his worth. "Please," the green-eyed one whispered in English, "let us hold the child." Daniel shook his head. "Not yet." Her eyes filled with sorrow, but she did not argue. "Then let us at least come inside. The soldiers will return. You heard them last night, yes? If they find you with the child, they will burn this place to ash." The golden-eyed one spoke quickly in their tongue, sharp words Daniel could not follow. The green-eyed woman translated. "She says you cannot protect it alone. You will die if you try." Daniel clenched his jaw. He hated how true those words sounded. Finally, with a heavy breath, he stepped aside. "Come in. But any trick, any harm, you'll regret it." The two women entered, moving with grace, their cloaks brushing the wooden floor. The cabin seemed to shrink around them. The baby stretched its tiny arms toward them, eyes glowing brighter. Daniel shut the door. He felt the weight of his choice settle on his shoulders. The strangers were no longer outside. They were here, inside his home, and whatever truth they carried would change everything. The cabin was no longer Daniel's alone. Smoke curled from the fire, shadows moving across the walls as the two alien women stood inside. They looked around with sharp eyes, their strange markings glowing faintly in the dim light. Daniel held the baby close, his arms tense, as if the child might be stolen the moment he looked away. The green-eyed woman lowered her hood. Her face, though alien, carried softness. The silver lines on her skin shimmered like moonlit rivers. She pressed a hand to her chest and spoke in broken English. "My name, Lyra," she said slowly, pointing at herself. Then she gestured to the golden-eyed woman beside her. "Her name, Kyle." Kyle did not bow or smile. Her gaze remained, locked on Daniel, cold and untrusting. She spoke in their sharp language, quick sentences Daniel could not understand. Lyra translated, her voice calm. She says, "Thank you. You saved the child." Daniel glanced between them, unsure. "Saved, yes. But why was the child alone? Why should I believe your story?" Lyra's eyes fell to the floor. Her voice grew heavy. "Our people, hunted. Soldiers took our kin. We carried the child, but the sky burned. We've lost everything. Only River could hide him." Daniel studied her face. She did not look like she was lying. Pain was written in every word, in the tremble of her lips. Still, his gut told him to stay cautious. "And those soldiers?" Daniel asked, "Are they the ones I heard last night outside my walls?" Kale's golden eyes narrowed and she gave a single nod. She spoke quickly again, her tone sharp. Lyra translated softly. "Yes, they search. They will not stop. The child is heir." She hesitated on the word, struggling to find the right one. Important. More than life. The baby stirred in Daniel's arms as if hearing the truth. Its glowing eyes opened briefly, staring at the women, then at Daniel. He felt the weight of their words sink deeper into him. An heir. Important. That meant danger. That meant enemies would keep coming. Daniel placed the baby gently back in the basket. Then he grabbed his rifle, resting it across his lap. "Listen to me. I don't care if this child is important to your people. What I know is simple. It's helpless. And I won't hand it over until I know the truth. I protect what's under my roof." Kyle bristled, her voice rising in her language. Lyra touched her arm to calm her, then looked at Daniel with pleading eyes. "We are not enemy. We want same. To protect. But soldiers come soon. Alone, you die. With us, maybe live. Daniel's heart thudded. She was right. He was one man. They were warriors. He could see it in the scars on their cloaks, the way they moved. But trust was a price he wasn't ready to pay. I'll decide, he said firmly. This is my home. My choice. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The baby sighed in its sleep, unaware of the storm circling around it. Then suddenly the quiet shattered. A distant horn sounded in the forest, low, haunting, carried by the wind. Daniel's blood turned cold. He didn't need translation to know what it meant. The hunters were close. Lyra's eyes widened. They found trail. They come. Kale moved fast, drawing a curved blade from beneath her cloak, its edge glowing faintly. She stepped to the window, scanning the trees. Daniel gripped his rifle tighter. His cabin had survived storms, wolves, and years of neglect, but it had never faced this. They'll be here before nightfall, Lyra said. You must choose. Now, give child or fight with us. Daniel's jaw tightened. The thought of handing over the baby stabbed at him. The child's small hand had clutched his beard. It had drunk milk from his bottle. It had trusted him. He could not betray that. He looked at the two women. If I fight for the child, not for you, understand? Kyle gave a hard nod, though her eyes burned with challenge. Lyra's face softened, almost relieved. Then we stand together. Daniel rose, setting the rifle against his shoulder. He walked to the door and bolted it, though he knew wood and iron would not hold long against soldiers. Still, the act steadied him. The choice had been made. He would protect the child, even if it meant dying in this cabin. The women moved quickly, preparing as if they had done this 100 times before. Kale pushed furniture against the windows. Lyra spread strange dust along the door that glowed faintly, forming a barrier. Daniel added what he could, extra wood on the fire, sharpened knives within reach. As the sun dipped low and shadows stretched, across the valley Daniel stood by the window, rifle ready. The horn sounded again, closer this time. The soldiers were coming, and Daniel knew. Tonight, the battle for the child would begin. The cabin smelled of smoke and dust. Outside, the haunting horn faded into silence, but Daniel knew the soldiers were close. He stood near the fire with his rifle ready, his eyes flicking toward the alien baby sleeping in the basket. The two women, Lyra and Kale, moved quickly, whispering in their sharp language as they prepared for what was coming. Yet Daniel's mind was not only on the soldiers, it was on the baby, on the strange glow of its skin, the mysterious cloth with symbols, and the heavy words the women had spoken. Air, important, more than life. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. I need answers, he said, voice firm. If I'm going to fight and risk everything, I need to know the truth. Who is this child? Why do they want it dead? Lyra looked at him, her green eyes shimmering in the firelight. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Kale growled something in her own tongue, shaking her head sharply, but Lyra raised a hand to silence her. He should know, Lyra said softly. He already chose to protect. Kale's jaw tightened, but she said nothing more. Lyra sat by the fire, her cloak falling open to reveal scars across her arms. She stared into the flames as she spoke. This child is not only ours, it belongs to our people, to our world. Blood of rulers flows inside him. Daniel frowned. Rulers? Yes, she whispered. He is son of our last queen. The soldiers. You heard? They served the usurpers, they killed her, they burned our home. The child is only one left. If he lives, our people have hope. If he dies, all is lost. The words struck Daniel like a hammer. This was not just a baby. This was a symbol. A spark for a war he didn't even know existed. He looked at Kale, who stood near the window with her glowing blade ready. Her golden eyes were hard, filled with fire. And you two, he asked. What are you to him? Lyra's lips trembled. We were sworn protectors. The queen trusted us. We carried him when the palace burned. We ran through fire and blood. But the soldiers, they chased us. We had no choice but to hide him in the river. It was the only way. Daniel's stomach twisted. He imagined the fear, the desperation, the baby floating helplessly. He clenched his fists. "You risked his life," he said harshly. Lyra looked up, pain in her eyes. "We saved it, and you finished what we could not. The river brought him to you. Perhaps fate chose you." Daniel turned away, staring at the sleeping infant. Fate. He didn't believe in fate. But the child had survived. And now, his life was tied to it whether he wanted it or not. Kale spoke suddenly, her voice sharp, cutting through the silence. Though Daniel could not understand her words, the anger was clear. Lyra translated, her tone heavy. "She says you should not carry this burden. That you are weak, human, you will fail, better we take the child and leave." Daniel snapped his head toward her. "Leave? You think I'd let you walk out with him when those soldiers are waiting? You wouldn't make it 10 steps. Kale's golden eyes flashed, but Lyra quickly spoke again, her voice urgent. "No, fighting between us, the soldiers are real enemy. Human speaks truth, alone we cannot run, together maybe we survive." The cabin fell into tense silence. The three of them were bound together by a child, by war, by choices none of them had wanted. Daniel sat down heavily, running a hand through his hair. His quiet life had ended. He thought of the years he had spent in solitude, trying to escape the world's noise, its violence. And yet here he was, rifle in hand, about to fight a battle not even of his world. But when he looked again at the baby, he knew why. It wasn't just about kings or queens or alien wars. It was about that small hand reaching for his beard, that soft trust in its glowing eyes. He couldn't walk away now. The baby stirred, opening its eyes briefly. The blue glow flickered brighter than ever before. For a moment, Daniel swore the symbols on the cloth pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Lyra whispered, almost in awe, "He recognizes you. That has meaning." Daniel didn't reply. But, deep inside, he felt something shift. The child was no longer just theirs, it was his too. Suddenly the horn outside blew again, closer, sharper. A chorus of harsh voices followed, echoing through the trees. Kyle straightened, blade in hand, her golden eyes burning. "They come," Lyra translated grimly. Daniel stood, lifting his rifle. The choice he had made weighed heavy, but it was unshakable. He would protect the child, not for crowns, not for kingdoms, but because it was right. The hidden past had been revealed. The truth was heavier than he imagined, but the future, the battle that was coming, would be heavier still. The forest no longer felt like a shelter, it had become a trap. The soldiers' horns howled through the valley, echoing closer each time. Daniel's cabin, once safe and quiet, shook with fear. The alien baby stirred in its glowing cloth, its faint cries lost under the distant thunder of boots. Kyle stood by the window, blade ready, her golden eyes sharp. Lyra knelt by the baby, whispering soothing words in her alien tongue. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle, scanning every shadow that moved outside. "They're circling," he muttered. "Not charging. They want to trap us." Lyra looked, up, face pale. "Yes. They will surround. When they are ready, they burn this place. None survive." Daniel's stomach twisted. He had seen enough battles in his youth to know she was right. The soldiers didn't need to storm the cabin. They could wait, smoke them out, starve them. "We can't stay here," he said firmly. "We need to move before they close in." Kyle snapped something sharp in her tongue. Lyra translated quickly, "She agrees. But the child slows us. If we are caught on open ground, we'll find a way." Daniel cut in. His voice was steady, but his heart hammered. He glanced at the baby glowing softly, unaware of the danger. "We have to try," they packed quickly. Lyra wrapped the baby close against her chest, covering its glow beneath layers of cloth. Kyle slipped silently outside, scouting the tree line, her blade flashing faintly. Daniel followed with his rifle, every step heavy with dread. The forest was alive with sound, branches snapping, voices calling in the strange soldiers' language, horns answering one another in the distance. They were everywhere, Daniel whispered, this way, guiding them toward a hidden deer trail he had used for years. It cut through dense undergrowth and led to the river farther upstream. If they could reach it, maybe the water could hide them again. They moved fast, breath fogging in the cold air. Each step felt like a drumbeat, each shadow like a hunter waiting to strike. Daniel's senses sharpened. He knew they were not alone. Suddenly, Kyle raised her hand, signaling them to stop. She crouched low, eyes narrowing through the brush. Ahead, faint lights flickered. Soldier patrols. We can't go forward, Daniel hissed. Kyle shook her head, then pointed sharply to the left. A steep slope led down toward the riverbank. Dangerous, but maybe their only chance. They slipped, down the slope sliding on loose dirt. Daniel nearly fell but caught himself on a root. Lyra stumbled but held the baby close, never letting it touch harm. Kyle moved like a shadow, silent and sure. At the bottom, the river roared louder, swollen with last night's rain. The current was fast, too fast, but Daniel's heart leapt anyway. The water was their way out. But then, a shout split the air. Harsh, guttural. Soldiers on the ridge had spotted them. "Run!" Daniel barked. They sprinted along the bank, branches whipping at their faces. The baby cried, the sound piercing in the chaos. Daniel fired his rifle once, the shot cracking like thunder. A soldier fell, but more voices rose in anger. Arrows of light, strange alien weapons, sliced through the trees, burning holes into bark and earth. Daniel dove behind a rock, firing back, while Kale deflected one shot with her glowing blade. Sparks flying. Lyra shielded the baby with her body, whispering desperately. They were surrounded, and then it happened. Daniel turned to shout for Kale, but froze. She wasn't at his side. She was standing a few steps away, the golden glow of her eyes locked on the baby, not the soldiers. Her blade lowered, her lips moving fast in her own tongue. Lyra's head snapped toward her, eyes wide with horror. "No," she whispered. Kael shouted in the soldiers' language, loud and clear. The patrol's horns answered instantly. Daniel's blood ran cold. "She's calling them," Lyra screamed, her voice breaking. "Betrayal." Kael turned, face twisted with something between anger and sorrow. She barked words Daniel couldn't understand, but Lyra translated through her sobs. She says the war's lost, that giving the child to them is the only way to live. Daniel's fury exploded. "Live? You'd hand over a baby? Your queen's child?" Kael's eyes burned. "Better alive as prisoner," Lyra choked out, translating through tears, than dead in the forest. The soldiers crashed closer, their lights cutting through the trees. Kael raised her blade, not at the enemy, but toward Daniel and Lyra. Daniel leveled his rifle, finger on the trigger. His heart thundered. The forest had no silence now, only shouts, horns, and the crackling fire of weapons. The chase had led them here, and betrayal had torn them apart. The baby cried louder, the glowing symbols on its cloth flashing like a storm. Daniel knew one thing with absolute certainty. This night would end in blood. The forest exploded with chaos. Soldiers poured from the trees, their weapons glowing, voices barking orders in their harsh tongue. The baby's cries rose above the noise, glowing cloth flashing with frantic light. Daniel's rifle felt heavy in his hands, but his anger burned hotter than fear. Kael stood a few steps away, her golden eyes hard, her blade raised not against the soldiers but against him. Her betrayal cut deeper than any weapon. "You'd hand him over?" Daniel shouted, his voice raw. "After everything? After your queen died for him?" Kyle snarled something in her tongue. Lyra cried out in English, her voice breaking. "She says it is mercy, that no one can win against the soldiers." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then you've already lost." He fired. The rifle cracked, fire and smoke bursting into the night. Kyle twisted aside with inhuman speed, the bullet grazing her cloak. She lunged, blade flashing. Daniel barely rolled, aside the sword slicing into the dirt where he had stood. The soldiers closed in, horns blaring. But the fight was not theirs alone anymore. It was between trust and betrayal. Lyra clutched the baby tight, backing against a rock. Her voice shook as she screamed at Cale, words in their alien tongue filled with pain and fury. Daniel scrambled to his feet, swinging the rifle like a club. The wooden stock slammed into Cale's arm, knocking her blade wide. She hissed, striking again, sparks flying as steel met iron. The soldiers cheered, surrounding them. They did not attack yet. Watching, waiting for Cale to finish what she had started. Daniel's chest heaved, his arms trembling, but his voice cut through the noise. I don't care about your war, your crowns, your enemies. This child trusted me, and I'll die before I let anyone take him. Cale's eyes flickered for just a moment, a shadow of doubt. But then her jaw hardened, and she swung again. Daniel blocked, pain surging through his arms as the glowing blade rang against the rifle's barrel. He staggered back, boots sliding on wet earth. His heart thundered. He could not outmatch her skill, not with a blade, not with speed, but he had something else. His human stubbornness. With a roar, Daniel rammed forward, slamming his shoulder into Kyle. She stumbled, surprised by his raw force. He grabbed her wrist, twisting until her blade dropped into the mud. For a heartbeat, they locked eyes, her golden glow burning with rage, his filled with fire. Then Daniel swung the rifle butt hard against her temple. Cale collapsed to her knees, dazed. The soldiers surged forward, shouting in anger. Daniel spun, raising the rifle again. Stay back, he roared. At that moment, the baby's cries changed. The glowing cloth pulsed brighter, symbols blazing, like fire. The child's eyes opened wide, glowing blue beams cutting through the dark. The soldiers froze. For the first time, fear touched their faces. Lyra gasped, clutching the baby close. He awakens, she whispered in awe. The air, his power begins. The ground trembled, a low hum shaking through the earth. The river surged louder as if answering the child's call. Daniel's skin prickled with energy. The soldiers hesitated, but then their leader barked a command. They raised their weapons, ready to fire. Daniel stepped in front of Lyra and the baby, rifle steady. His voice was hoarse but unyielding. You want him? You'll have to kill me first. The standoff held for a single breath. Then the soldiers fired. Light ripped through the forest, burning and blinding. Daniel dove, dragging Lyra and the baby behind the rock. Explosions tore the ground. Smoke filled the air. Through it all, the baby's glow blazed brighter, forming a shield of blue, light around them. The blast struck the barrier, sparking harmlessly away. Daniel stared in shock. What is he? Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Hope. Kyle, still on her knees, lifted her head weakly. Her golden eyes flickered with disbelief as she saw the shield. Her lips trembled. For the first time, she seemed broken. The soldiers faltered, fear spreading through their ranks. The leader barked again, but hesitation hung heavy in the air. Daniel rose from behind the rock, rifle smoking, his voice fierce. You don't belong here. Leave this place or face me and him both. The baby's glow flared in agreement, the shield pulsing like a living force. The soldiers wavered. One stepped back. Another lowered his weapon. Finally, the leader cursed in his tongue and signaled retreat. Slowly, the soldiers faded into the trees, their horns falling silent. Silence returned heavy and trembling. Daniel lowered his rifle, chest heaving. His arms shook with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed locked on the baby. The glow dimmed slowly, the shield fading. The child closed its eyes, falling into peaceful sleep. Lyra sank to her knees, clutching the baby with reverence. The air lives, because of you. Daniel looked at Cale, still kneeling, her blade in the dirt. Her golden eyes no longer burned with defiance. They burned with shame. You betrayed him. Daniel said coldly. But even you saw what he is. Do you understand now? Kyle bowed her head. She spoke weakly, and Lyra translated. She says she was wrong. The child is more than she believed. She begs forgiveness. Daniel didn't answer. He simply turned toward the cabin, rifle on his shoulder, the fire of battle still burning inside him. The night had ended, but life would never return to what it was. Daniel had chosen, and his choice had changed everything. The baby was his now, not just theirs, not just an heir, but a promise. A promise that no matter how many enemies came, humanity would stand and fight. The final stand was only the beginning.